Welcome back to another video. We made some great progress on the 2003 TDI diesel Volkswagen Beetle behind me last video, and this video we're going to pick up where we left off, where the water housing flange broke on me. So the new one came in. Let me go ahead and show you the parts real quick, and then we'll start installing. And hopefully this video, the plan is to get this thing at least on the road and do a test drive. I do have an exhaust leak to fix that'll be a little bit later down the road, so it's not going to sound perfect, but other than that, I think we should be pretty good. So let's go ahead and get into it. So right here are the new parts. So this flange is what broke on the other one. It's a pretty lightweight aluminum piece. This is from Euro Parts, and that is the part number right there. And this stupid sucker is about 77, almost 80 bucks on Rock Auto. I get it, it's a complicated piece, but it is what it is. We have a new little PCV hose. The old one broke, and this is a little bit more bendy without breaky, which is awesome. And then a water temperature sensor that goes right here. So I'm going to start off just inserting the water temperature sensor. It comes with a new O-ring and seal because it's already right here. And then we'll start going ahead and getting everything installed. Because it is the diesel, you have to get the one that has the glow plug adapter, which is right here. And that is still on the car, so we'll show that in a minute. And yeah, we'll get this stuff installed real quick, get it refilled with coolant, and hopefully with the new fan controller that's already on the car, should fix our cooling issues. First up, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our temperature sensor. Should be pretty easy. Now, this is only a couple bucks, which is why I just bought a new one instead of trying to reuse the old one. But pop your O-ring on right here. Pretty straightforward. And then slip it into the sensor location, which is right here. All right. Then we have our retainer clip. Just goes in like so, and that's it. So we can rotate this as needed for the plug, and that's the new sensor. So we have a valve cover, leaky valve cover gasket we'll probably get to a little bit later. Not to worry about that, but the main thing, this is our old flange right here, so we're gonna need to take that clamp off. I'm actually gonna try and swap as many clamps as I can out for normal hose clamps because I really hate the way these things work. They work great up until they don't, and then you can't really tighten them over imperfections or whatever, and it just kind of, I don't like them. So broken flange, obviously not good. We have our cable down there, new flanges right here. So I'm gonna flip you guys over to time lapse. As far as this is concerned, this piece goes right here. Yeah, so this goes right here, and that's gonna go for our PCV, which will sit and hang out like that. Put that back on a little later. Other than that though, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. So this does have an O-ring, and the part number is in the last video, but the O-ring sits right in here. And it looks a hair oversized, but it does fit like that. And then I use a little bit of silicone to kind of help glue it in if it's trying to be a turd and pop out on me. But it looks like this might fit. And then we're just gonna go ahead and compress it down, and it should compress and fill the crack perfectly. So we're gonna go real careful, because last time we cracked off one of these edges, I'm pretty sure because the aluminum was brittle. But we're gonna go real evenly back and forth until it bottoms out against the block, and then we should be good. They're 10mm, nothing crazy. This is our plug for the temperature sensor. And this is our old gasket, which is just some silicone that blew out, so I had a leak to begin with. So let's go ahead and get it installed. So torque spec for this is 7 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. So we're gonna go and use our torque wrench and very carefully tighten this so we don't break anything. All right, remember that's barely anything, so we're almost right there, tiny bit tighter. So now torque to spec, so we should be good. So next up, let's go ahead and put on our temperature sensor plug. Slips right on like so, so that's nice in place. And then we're gonna go ahead and do this bottom hose next, and it's got a little bit of old debris in here. We'll try and clean out as best we can. Just aluminum dust, so it's not really gonna hurt anything. By that I mean oxidation dust, really. I'm gonna go ahead and get this clamp off of here, and then we'll go ahead and put on a nice hose clamp, get this bottom one on, get this one on, and then once that's on, last thing we'll go ahead and do is put our glow plug harness back on. And because of the way this is set up, I'm just gonna go ahead and clean. It's actually got a pretty good clean surface. I'm gonna use the actual Permatex stuff for here. And my reasoning is because there's no actual outlets for it to exit, it should make a very nice seal. And and we should be nice and good. No worries for breaking anything, because that'll soft and squish out of the way. And it's now installed. New one's in. Torque down the outer bolts as well. Same 7 foot-pounds or 84 inch-pounds. We should be good. So let's go ahead and do reassembly next, I guess. Nice surprise, found 2 bolts I had laying around because the intake didn't have any, and tightened it down. And now it's nice and secure. It's not jumping up or going anywhere. So next I'm going to go ahead and put on the intake tube and our PCV stuff, and really we're almost there. All right, so our new little tube is on here, and this is the old one that snapped on me as soon as I was starting to try and take it off. And this one got a real nice tight slip fit right here, no vacuum leaks, and pretty solid little rubber insulator here. Got our MAF hooked back up, which is right here, very important for airflow readings. And other than that, I mean, should be good. So we do have to put a coolant in it, obviously, because we are probably bone dry. We emptied out quite a bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and put coolant in here. If you guys didn't know, it's supposed to take a purple special coolant. However, there was green stuff that came out. We're gonna go ahead and put yellow in. Yellow is compatible with just about everything. I do also have green, but that's pretty much what this car takes. I'm sure this isn't the first time it's been coolant flushed. So no worries, we're gonna go ahead and just refill it with that, and we should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the funnel and refill it. All right, so what I went ahead and did is, I know on some of these vehicles you need to vacuum fill the cooling system. And what that means is pulling a vacuum. So this is actually a brake bleed kit, but it has all the adapters needed to go ahead and pull some vacuum. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. And you'll start to see these hoses collapse as we pull enough vacuum. When we release it, they'll refill with coolant because all the air's out of the system. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this for a while and see if it works. And if we wind up getting coolant, you'll see it come through the tube right there. So we know we don't actually mess up our vacuum guy. All right, so a little finagling. So I went ahead and got a plug that I had and trimmed it down a little bit to fit. And then you can see that we got some vacuum going on and that coolant pipe is collapsed. So should happen. See if you guys can get a good angle at that when we release the vacuum, because now there's nothing there but, well, vacuum. I want to keep going on this a little longer. And it should force coolant into that passage when we release the vacuum, because all we're doing is sucking out all the air. There you can see the rest of the pipe collapsing in that top left corner. And that's what we want, get all that air out of there. And I'm at a little under 15 inches of vacuum. Perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and release it. Theory. Yeah, I hear that. It's cooling in the lines now, which is what we wanted. So now we can go ahead and check our coolant level. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it has dropped a little bit. We're gonna add some more and do it again. All right, so I went ahead and pulled vacuum on it several times over just to make sure we're good. It got up to about 15 inches of vacuum, all the pipes collapsed, and it went ahead and started sucking some coolant through the reservoir. So I think we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and crank it on. Let's see if our new fan controller works. When the AC comes on, the fan should turn on in theory. Let's go ahead and test some stuff out and find out. A little magnet right here hanging out. So, one way to find out. Anytime I mess with the motor, it's a little nerve-wracking. Restarting it just a little bit. Make sure she's in neutral, not that it matters because it's up off the ground. Clutch in, key in. Alright, AC is on, so in theory it should do something. Let's find out. I don't know why the wheel is turning. We are in neutral, so that's a little interesting. Not much force, something's just grabbing a little bit, I guess. Still no fan or AC. So, interesting. I don't know, it's not ideal. It sounds a little quieter this time around than last time. But, alright. I'll keep doing some research, I guess, and digging into it, let it heat up a little bit. So you can figure out why our fans are turning on. That's quite irritating. Alright, so we had it running for a solid 30 minutes and still no fans. This pipe's nice and hot. Actually, this pipe's pretty hot too, so I think the thermostat eventually opened up and was cycling a little bit of coolant. So that's good, but the fans never came on. So doing some more research, and it looks like we can test the fans by jumping them. So I'm going to go underneath and sort that out. One wire is a ground. The brown should be a ground. The other two are high and low speed fans. So all we need to do is have a positive wire coming off one of our positive battery terminals and the negative doing negative stuff. We should be able to jump and test it out. So I'm going to go ahead and set up some kind of rig for that, and we'll see if it works. All right, let's test in the first one, and it's positive right here. You'll notice a whole lot of nothing. Let me show you where I have it hooked up. No power, obviously. This black one goes to ground. Underneath here, we unhooked our fan. See brown cable. The middle one's what we're hooked up to right now. Green is positive, black is ground, nothing. So, switch it over to that one now. This outer one right here. Let's see. We get something. Not amazing. It doesn't sound amazing, but it does work. So I don't know if that's our high or low speed. That's one fan tested. So let's go ahead and test the other one now. All right, other one's hooked up now. Let's see if we get anything. All right, so that one's high speed works. That's what high speed should sound like. Let's see about low speed now. Nothing on low speed for this one. Interesting. So, looks like our fans are both having issues on certain speeds. All right, so this one's low speed, doesn't work. So one low speed that works and one high speed that works on opposite fans. Probably means those things are bad. This is interesting. Gonna have to do a little more research on that, but good to know. All right, so it is the next day, and I did a bunch of research earlier, and I figured out some stuff. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna walk you through what I did. I'll show you guys how I figured out a problem. Long story short, pretty sure the radiator fans are toast. So let's go ahead and show you what I did. All right, so there's an outstanding walkthrough by a gentleman on the Volkswagen page. I'll hopefully link that in the description because it's really awesome. But the particular one I was following was A4 coolant fan testing, manual air conditioning. That's what this one is. So both fans should come on low speed at any time the key is on and the AC is on. So hit our button, key on, fan should come on, mine did not, so I have a problem. Possible causes: low refrigerant will lock out both fans and AC clutch. We tested the refrigerant earlier, was within spec. High refrigerant will put both fans in high speed. That didn't happen either, so we don't have high refrigerant. Next, so fuse 8, 30 amp green plastic above battery is this one. Needs to be in working order. Went ahead and pulled the connector out and double checked. I looked in there real closely, and this doesn't look burnt at all, as you saw yesterday when I was also testing it. We're good. So I'm confident that we're good. This gives power to the fan controller down below, as well as some of the AC things. So I know this is good because the other test checked out, so we're good there. So check, we're good. So then the fuse 3, which is this one, the 40 amp metal strip above, I'm sorry, fuse 3, 40 amp metal strip above battery. I believe that's this one. Could be honestly any of these, but you'll visibly be able to see if it's busted because there'll be a gap between one of these. It won't be a solid piece of metal. So we know those are good too. Sure, AC circuits and fan control module has power. So fuse 5 inside the cabin over here. Let me show you guys. Inside of the cabin right here, we have our fuses. Little key is a nice little way to open this. And we need fuse 5, which I already know this by memory now. So this 7.5 amp right here, this one, this 10 amp, and then 25, which is this guy right here. All three of those need to have continuity, so I took my multimeter, took it to a ground. I just used this, touched each one of these little tiny probes to make sure they had 12 volts. They all had 12 volts. I also forgot to mention, I have a scan gauge. I completely forgot about this inside the truck, took it out, checked our codes, so I was able to see what those were, and they seem to be old codes. I'll get into those a little bit later. But so I was like, okay, check, all the fuses are good. What next? So this is where things get a little interesting. On the next page here, so we just give us a diagram of where all this stuff goes. Coolant fans, this is 3 right here, so 3 is indeed 3. So fan response to temperature signals underneath. So first, for the first test, the slow speed fans from the radiator thermo switch have key off. So the key does not need to be on for this test. Move the radiator fan temperature switch plug located on the left side of the radiator. Shorts pin 1 and 2 together with a fused jumper wire. I did not use a fused wire, but still regardless, it should be fine. Let me show you what I did. So underneath here, and mind you, this is a royal pain in the butt to unplug, but this guy plugs in right there, and that is our temperature sensor on the radiator. This is what triggers low speed fans and high speed fans, depending on what the radiator temperature sees. So to pull this stupid plug out, you're supposed to be able to just pull it back and it lifts up. I don't know if you can see that happening. I had to use a pick and get in there to get it because I could not get this thing to actuate properly. Pull it out. So pin 1 is this top one right here. If you see this piece is your orientation, 1, 2, and 3. 2 is the one that has constant 12 volt power coming from the fan controller. From my understanding, so it's either fan controller or somewhere else, I don't know. But I know this one has constant power. So we jumped this one to this one, and I double checked, we have 12 volts. So one with those jumped, the fans did not come on low speed, and they should have. So I then checked our harness on the driver's side. You can see there's different sized wires. This one on the far right is ground. The center one being smaller is low speed. The fatter one is high speed. So I grounded my multimeter and checked that middle one, and we had 12 volts coming out of here. So in theory, the fan should have turned on. I then checked this one as well. Same deal. Ground is the bottom on this side. Low speed is there. Checked it. Did not come on. Or there was full power here, but again, our fans didn't come on. So then if you ground the 2 to number 3 over here, which is what I did next, not ground, I'm sorry, jumped those 2, high-speed fans came on with everything plugged in, obviously. So both high-speed fans came on, no issues there. So I was like, all right, sweet, we're good. And then from there, I was like, okay, so we just have low-speed fan issues. Now, even though I jumped these directly to the battery and it worked on one of the fans, it didn't sound great. So I then did the ohm test. So if you have your guys switch to ohms right there, no resistance is basically 1 ohm. So if I take these 2 terminals and touch them together like that, you'll see we get 1.9, 2 ohms, somewhere in there is our resistance. So I checked the high-speed terminal on this side first, this one. And this one doesn't sound great, there's a nasty squeak coming from it. And it was about 2.2 ohms. So I'd say that's within range, it was working fine. I checked the low speed, absolutely nothing. I got didn't even read that they were connected wires anymore. So that would be the low speed fan, whatever goes on circuit wise in there, no longer connected, not good. Doesn't run through the motor at all. Trash. On this one, the same thing. High-speed fan on this one was 200 ohms. So although it's working a crap ton of resistance, way more than it should be, probably means the motor's going to get hot and have problems. And then the low side also had 0 ohms. Or I'm sorry, no connection whatsoever. So basically what that means, long-winded story short, is that fans are bad. If these are getting the proper voltage that they're supposed to be getting and they're putting it out to the fans, it is now the fan's job to actually, turn on when it gets the power. So we have bad radiator fans. So I was doing a little bit of Googling. It looks like we can probably pull this out through the bottom. The pipes are pretty much out of the way. I don't know if we can go through the top on this. Let me hop around in a second and see. On the top side, no, I would not try taking your fans out through here. So that's pretty much that. So it's good to know on there. And then there's one more thing I found on the AC. I almost forgot to mention. I haven't turned the car on to see if this will fix anything, but let me show you. So under here, you may be able to tell by the zip tie. I've been racking my brain as to why the heck the AC clutch would not turn on. And again, I haven't tested this for sure, but the clip on this is broken. So it was off. And I went ahead and took a zip tie just now to really tighten her down. And when I'm gonna go plug the fans back in real quick, just not throw any additional fault codes, turn it on and turn the AC on, and we'll see if the clutch kicks on. So that'll be good, and we'll check that out in a minute. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do now, we're just gonna turn this on real quick. There's no point letting it get up to temperature with the fans not being operational as they're supposed to be. I do want to check with the scan gauge to see if we have any new codes, but I cleared them out because the codes that popped up were for, there's a generic one I couldn't read, one for the turbocharger being under boosted, not seeing the desired boost it was supposed to be putting out. So that could be because we either didn't adjust the wastegate properly, it might be holding it open, but I doubt that. It was probably because the wastegate was straight up broken. And the other one that we're looking at is the coolant temperature sensor, the one that comes off the head, the one that we just replaced, for being out of range, voltage high. So because we just replaced it, it's either a problem in the wiring or a faulty sensor, but the green one is the one I put in, the black one is the one that came out. That's supposed to be the updated version, so it should be better. So let's go ahead and start this thing real quick. See if our AC comes on real quick. That little blue just means that the engine's not at the temperature yet, from what I've been told. All right, no engagement. It also just dawned on me, if the fan clutch is broken, or if the fans are broken, it's very possible it won't engage at all because it's seeing a resistance or open line fault. So I need to read that troubleshooting guide real quick. So it's been a couple days. Went ahead and ordered the parts after we did our diagnostic of the fans not working properly on slow speed. I also went ahead and ordered a new valve cover gasket, which will get installed pretty soon here because it's got some pretty dingy leaks going on. So we'll go ahead and replace that. Not too worried about that. Fans just showed up, and let me show you guys a couple other things. So while I was in here, I totally forgot that I have. So while I was over here, I completely forgot that I have a scan gauge too, and went over some codes. So I ran the Beetle for a little bit, and I wanted to go over basically the codes that popped up. So I wrote them down, did a little research, it's kind of interesting, but let's see what we got. I believe these are old ones, so I ran it, took down the first codes. There were 3 that I could read, and then 3 that I could not. There were 6 total. So the first ones, and I think these are old, which is why I deleted them, ran it again, and they have 3 new codes. Or actually, yeah. So the first one, coolant sensor voltage high. So this could be either a bad coolant sensor, which is likely. That's the one we wound up replacing that went to that little flange we just replaced a little while ago. So the old style is a black one, and the new one is the green connector. So that's supposed to be better. So that probably fixed that issue. Turbo / supercharger under boost condition is P0299. And that one probably because the wastegate was broken. And last one we had, this one could be current, could not, I don't know. P0128, coolant temperature too low. So that's either because the thermostat is stuck open, letting it circulate, and I figured out the direction of coolant while thinking about it. Let me show you guys real quick. So I did some research on the cooling system, and coolant comes out through this back flange here and in through here into the thermostat. So in theory, if it's working properly, which it should be, it'll have hot liquid coming out of here, down into the radiator, past the fan sensor, and then come back up, and it should be cooled off by the time it gets back into the inlet over here. So having it being too cool means thermostat is currently open, and that would mean that it's just letting it recirculate. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it is for sure. It could also be the bad sensor. It could be numerous other things. So I decided not to mess with the thermostat yet, and we'll run it a little bit. That's not the worst thing to happen. I'm not worried if it's running cool. We'll figure out that later. But, so like I said, that was the first 3 codes. Deleted them, wrote them down obviously so I have them, turned the car back on, and the engine light came on pretty quick. So this time, I have 3 different codes. So first, I had a P0671 and a P0673, which is for glow plugs, so cylinders 1 and 3 glow plugs basically not working. It can aid in poor starts, decrease MPG, some other issues. So first things first, I went ahead and decided to pull off the harness. As you can see, it's very dry rotted, and as soon as I tried to pull up on it, the harness just broke off. These are our glow plugs right there. So pretty safe to say the harness is probably the reason the glow plugs aren't working, but I'm going to go ahead and test them anyway. I was doing some research. If you do a multimeter on ohm setting, touch the top of a glow plug and ground it somewhere, it should be pretty close to 1 ohm of resistance, which is basically almost no resistance. If you have higher than that, it probably has a bad glow plug. So we'll test 1 and 3, as well as order a new harness, which is not expensive. They're about 20, 30 bucks. I was doing some research on them, so not terrible. We can get a new one of those and install that. And then we had a P0103, which is probably why the engine light turned on as fast as it did, and that's for the MAF. So you can replace the MAF sensor with these special little star bolts with a little circle in the middle. So we could replace the MAF sensor. I'm going to try cleaning it first. It's very possible there's just oil and recirculation crap that has gotten onto the MAF sensor. So I'm going to clean this. We're going to replace the valve cover gasket and install our radiator fans. And then the plan for the day is to go ahead and get this thing off jack stands. We can probably drive around a little at that point. The glow plugs are not that big of a deal. If it's cold out, they assist with starting. Other than that, I'm really not worried about them. So like I said, we're going to go ahead, clean the MAF, clean this, drive around for a little bit, see what kind of codes come up. And we should be good for a bit. And I'm going to move it over and have some other products to work on, and then we'll get back to it afterwards. All right, so looking at the fans, things we're going to start off with. Flip it around real quick. And so we have 4 mounting bolts that we need to worry about. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there's a plastic clip that comes off that goes here that secures these guys. What I'm going to try and do, there's a couple different ways to do this. You can try and dismount the fan brackets themselves. Looks like 3 right here with these bolts, or you can try and do this whole assembly. I'm going to try and do the whole assembly. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and we should have enough clearance to slide it down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so underneath here, oh boy, let's see. You got 1 right there, that guy. Looks like 1 right here, and then 2 on the top side, which I'm gonna have to get up from the top side so I can get them. And then based on that, we can detach this right here, this hose. That'll be out of the way. And then really, we should have plenty of clearance looking at everything to move this whole assembly down. Yeah, should be good. So let me figure out the right size. Looks like star bits. See if I got what I need. All right, let's see, is this it? Yep. Do not have a T27. So T27 right here. Let's go ahead and get this thing up. On the top side, we have 1 located right there, and the other one is located kind of difficult to get to. I'm going to be able to reach in there going this way, but that's not super fun to get to, but it's back on that way. So let's go ahead and get these out next, and hopefully we can slide out this assembly. All right, so we got our fans out. Kind of stunk. This corner was getting caught up on a piece of the bumper plastic, which is what I was struggling with the last bit. Yes, the old fans are out. What I think I'm gonna go ahead and do is just plug in the new fans without actually installing them yet. Try turning on our AC thing and see if the low speed comes on like it's supposed to. Just confirm before we go any further. Not that it'll matter, new ones are going in anyway, but just because I'm curious and I want to know. All right, it's plugged in, and I'm just gonna leave them here. They're not gonna hurt anything. Both these can free spin without touching anything. So let's see if what should happen when we turn on AC to the on position. So in theory, it should turn on. So let's find out. Interesting indeed. They should have turned on. I was a little bit disappointed for a minute because they weren't coming on, and went ahead and did my little jumper test again. So between pins 1 and 2, this should be slow speed operations on the temperature sensor test. So it should right here. You can see that, you can hear they come on just fine. So the old fans were indeed shot. Didn't feel like, I just wanted to double check and make sure. So that means we do have a problem with our AC system in the electrical somewhere. So that is the next part to troubleshoot. So the reason I did this first is because this is what is required to continue on the troubleshooting for that. So let's go ahead and continue. So all my paperwork here, you guys saw the rundown so far of testing the fans. So the fans are now, I would say, good. They work as intended. They got up to, this is where we failed before. So with the thermo switch removed, plug located, blah, 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 jump pin 1 to pin 2, which was what we just did, and they came on. So both fans should run at slow speed, which they did. Fast speed, we already tested that, we know that's fine. Checking slow speed power from thermal switch, we already did this one. Yeah, pretty much that ends our troubleshooting for this. So we know that the fans are good. The actual switch, if I can find the thermo switch, that's the plug, this one. So jumping, that's with the plug on top, jumping these 2 cables, that's for the fans. So now the fans are good. Set that aside now. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start working through the air conditioning control circuit troubleshooting. So this is the one where key on should turn on with the fans, but it's not. So that means there's something having an issue with the actual air conditioning switch somewhere. I don't know which switch, I don't know which one, so I'm gonna do a bunch of reading. I'm also gonna be testing power to the fan controller that we replaced and seeing if any of these are not coming back with power that might point in the direction we need to do to fix this. So I'm gonna keep going. All right, so located it's called a G65 pressure switch, located right there. You might be able to see a small needle sticking out of the wire. Went ahead and tested that, and if it's like an open circuit, it should be 12 volts, and obviously that's a problem. Key on, key off is 0. On mine, key on is 0.5 volts, which I believe is the minimum pressure reading. So either the system is empty, which I don't believe that to be the case because I plugged in a pressure sensor on the low side and it read an appropriate amount of pressure. So probably a bad pressure switch. I'm gonna go ahead and order a new one. They're pretty cheap, and we'll see if that is our issue. But the compressor will never engage if that's the case, and allegedly neither will the AC fans when you turn on the thing because it's too low of a pressure. So we'll try changing that out, and I guess we'll see what happens with that. All right, so went ahead and ordered a new switch. So that should be here in a couple days. Other than that, let's go ahead and install the rest of our stuff. I did also order a new glow plug harness. As you can see, this thing is super cracked and really no good at this point. So the new one basically splices into this existing harness. Yeah, this thing is just absolutely crumpling and falling apart. It's supposed to be nice and flexible. So I imagine that it's probably having poor connection somewhere down here at some point, or arcing to the block, who knows what, but not good. Regardless, so I'm gonna go ahead and install the new parts now, and whenever this thing shows up and the switch shows up, we can replace that. Really, should be about it for now. So let's go ahead and get this new thing installed. Let's get the radiator in, and then move on from there. All right, so I popped this clip off of the old one, and it actually clips on right up there. You see those two little holes? These two clip right in, and then these are gonna hold all their wires in place. So I'm gonna pop that on real quick, and then we'll get to the top side and get those bolts in, which absolutely suck. All right, fans are installed and seems to be good to go. These two bolts are definitely not fun to get to, but 3/8 inch ratchet was, or sorry, a 1/4 inch ratchet, and reaching in real tight was able to get in there. Realistically, you probably take the battery out, battery box out, and get more clearance. This side still kind of stinks because you have this pump over here, but it's good enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the MAF housing, and I wanna clean the MAF sensor real quick, and then we'll get onto the valve cover gasket. All right, so I also pulled out the air filter just because I was curious as to what was going on. You can see this whole area was dipped here. It means it wasn't sealing and it was able to suck dirty air around the filter. The reason I know that, looking at this, you can see there's a bunch of grime and stuff in front of the actual MAF housing. That's not ideal. So I'm gonna spray this out with some MAF cleaner and try and clean that out. But yeah, that should be a very nice clean screen. It should not have a bunch of crap in there. Probably why our MAF is actually dirty and having a bad signal and triggering the engine light. Looks like he also has a new engine filter over there, so I'm gonna put a new one in while we're at it. All right, so there's two funky looking Torx bits that have a little dot in the center of them. Probably a T27 if I had to guess. I'm honestly not sure. TR I think is the one with the dot. But anyway, so pulled this out and then separated the MAF from the housing. And we can get a good look in there. And you can see all that buildup on there. It's all dirt, so I guarantee the inside looks just as bad. That little chip, if you guys can see right there, is what needs to sample the clean air. So obviously you can't do that if it's in bad shape. So I'm gonna pick up some mass airflow cleaner right here. We're gonna spray this thing down, put it all back together, and hopefully it'll fix our code for the MAF signal. All right, so now you can see that nice little shiny piece in there. So that's what the two wires, there should be two wires parallel that sample the airflow, and that's what that is. So MAF sensor cleaner seemed to work just fine. And then you just let it dry for a bit. We're not gonna run this immediately, so we can reinstall it now and then just give it some time. But yep, it should be good. All right, MAF sensor's back in, much happier, should be good. Has a very nice designed little trumpet area here to kind of get the nice flow, and that's awesome. Should be, I mean, OEM, pretty good solid drivability. Kind of leaves a little bit to wonder about aftermarket stuff like what's on my GT500, but it is what it is. So next up, I'm gonna go ahead and work on the valve cover gasket. So we can pop this guy back off again. We had it off earlier. And pop that off, set it off to the side. And then we have clearance, and there's 6 bolts, and they are a 5mm Allen head. So get them in there, and we'll take off all 6 and then pop the gasket off, clean the surfaces, put the gasket back on, should be good to go. All right, so now you can see this is basically what the inside looks like. Looks like we're leaking a bit from the back area, and just in general you can kind of see how it's all seeping out around the whole seal. So cam looks pretty good, which is awesome. It means there's no signs of like oil starvation or anything like that. It's pretty cool. You can see how the valves, I guess. It's a very giant circle right there, whereas most American cars and what you normally see are or an actual like have a valve lash or something else. Basically, the cam doesn't ride directly on top of whatever circle that is. It's kind of cool, but whatever. Pardon that dumb way to put things, but it is what it is. So that's what the open looks like, or the cam area. We go ahead and show you the actual valve gasket. So the valve cover gasket's right here. You can see we have a top half and a bottom half. There's probably supposed to be silicone on these points. Maybe not though. We'll see. A little more research before I put this back together. Actually, no, there's probably not. I think it's fine. So go ahead and pull this guy out. It just pops out. And I'm gonna need 2 hands to do this, I think. It's pretty hardened rubber, which should probably be why it's leaking. So yeah, let's go ahead and replace this thing. I was about to start prying this off, and I realized that this is not the same gasket at all. So that kind of sucks. I gotta see about figuring out what the right one is. I'll have to return this one. All right, so this is the next day, and our new gasket came in. I took some time and cleaned this up yesterday. Used a wire wheel, and not a regular wire wheel, a Dremel wire wheel. It's pretty soft. So took off most of what I needed to take off, and this is our new gasket. So I don't think this goes to this exact one because there's one section of it right here that, if you'll notice, that indent is a lot longer than right here. I was doing some Googling. There's another dude who has a video on this, pretty sweet, and pretty much that's the only part. You just need to trim a little bit around there. I have this on backwards. Actually, it might be incorrect. That might be the right exact size. So let's see, that fits. Oh, no, this is perfect. So this fits in exactly where we need it on this side. Let's see how it does on this side. Basically just Amazoned a 2003 Beetle TDI ALH is the name of the motor. And okay, yeah, this fits perfectly. Sweet. So what I'm gonna go ahead and use is the Right Stuff gasket maker, and I'm gonna go ahead and lay a bead, basically real thin bit all around here on the gasket, and that stuff will basically glue it back down essentially. They come glued from the factory. There's a video of a guy who used contact cement on his, and as long as you have it glued down, it should be fine. I want mine to be able to be replaced eventually, so I'm going to use the Right Stuff, and will come back up with a little bit of elbow grease, but it won't be as bad as this was. So it should be good. Let me go ahead and clean up. So I'm just going to get in here, clean up the surfaces. You can see all the residual oil and all that stuff. And once you get that cleaned up, we'll go ahead and put our valve cover back on, and we should be good to go. New valve cover gasket is on and seems to be good to go. I got into it a guy, or I messaged a guy on YouTube commenting these are 6mm bolts. I'm incorrect, they are 5, as he said in his video. So if you're watching this, my bad dude, you're right. Anyway, so yeah, all I'm waiting on now is the glow plug gasket, or not gasket, the glow plug harness to show up, should be here tomorrow, that AC switch, and should be good to go. And then the plan is hopefully to get it on the ground at the end of this video. All right, so looks like we got some more parts in. The little AC switch pressure sensor right here is in now. So that's awesome. Go ahead and get that swapped out pretty easily. Then our new glow plug harness is here. Although looking at the wires, this one only has 2, and the one in the car currently has 4 coming out of it, so I need to make sure it's the right one for that. But other than that, we should be good. So I'm gonna start with this AC pressure switch. Should be pretty easy, and then we'll get to the glow plug harness next. All right, so in the engine bay, our pressure sensor switch is right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it and get that out of the way, and then it's just a little bit of a wrench. We're gonna use a regular wrench in there, pop it off, put the new one on, we should be good to go. All right, new switch is installed. Pretty easy, nothing too crazy to worry about. Add a little bit of silicone lubricant into just near to ease with install, because this is pretty dry coming off, so it's hard to take off. And there we go. So now that the new one's in, go ahead and set this off to the side, and let's figure out this glow plug harness. Well, that kind of sucks, so I went ahead and tore out a bunch of stuff to try and follow this glow plug harness, as you can see. And looks like, well, runs right over here. So it's a 4-wire harness. I did some more researching, and there's definitely a 4-wire version of this, so I just ordered the wrong one, unfortunately. Yeah, it kind of has a wild run path, but goes all the way around, dips down, and then comes out. Where did it go? Somewhere over here. Yeah, like all the way over here. So order a new one. That'll be here in a bit. And guess no more waiting. So actually, instead of waiting, what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this guy. We'll just let this harness dangle for now, and go ahead and put everything back together. And I do want to go for a test drive. That'll probably do at the end of this video, test our AC stuff and see how we are. So that's the plan. I'm not gonna put this back together on camera. And next bit should be hopefully get everything back together and start it up and see what happens. All right, so turn the car on, see the check engine lights on, and just check the codes. So it's for the glow plugs, which makes sense. We don't have the harness plugged in. Other than that, there's still no AC clicking on with the new switch. So that is kind of annoying. But I think at this point, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna see if there's anything else to focus on. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing off jack stands, and I guess we'll see about going for a little bit of a test drive on it. Looks, I need to clean up this lower half. All the oil that made a mess really highlights it with the new shiny valve cover. So go ahead and knock that out next. Cleaning the MAF sensor did seem to work. There's no MAF code that came back, at least not in the first few seconds of running. So I'm hoping that we should be good. Let me double check just to make sure. Yeah, 4 codes. Those are for the 4 MAFs, or the 4 things. So yeah, there we go. I don't know why we have a check-in or airbag light on all of a sudden. That's kind of random, but that's what it is. We'll just keep on trucking, I guess. Guess we're gonna go ahead and take this thing for a drive. I'm gonna keep my gauge plugged in. I'm just gonna go around the neighborhood because she is out of registration at the moment, but should be fine. And I guess we'll see what happens. Work. And windows work all right. Okay, that's good. Got that airbag light on, which is really weird. I'm not sure what that's about. What may have possibly triggered that, because I didn't do anything before last time we drove, or didn't drive it, but really haven't touched anything, so disconnect the battery and plug that back in. So that's weird. But let's see. Plug it in. Check engine lights back on. See what you're about real quick. Alright, so P0103 is a problem with the mass airflow sensor having a high voltage output to the ECU. So it looks like we did not indeed. Alright, we'll have to come back to that one. It's possible it needs a new MAF sensor. Alright, so that's probably going to inhibit our driving a little bit. But being a diesel, I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. Alright. It's a little bit weird going in the first gear. Oh, alright, here we go. Gotta fix this headliner. This is not ideal. Brakes feel good. Probably should check those before we do anything else. That'd be smart, right? Alright. First gear. Second gear. Third gear. I need to relieve our brakes. They feel a little mushy. First gear. So if I go into second gear, it goes into first, no problem, but it doesn't go into first by itself. It's interesting. Fourth gear. We're only like 30 miles an hour, so there's not much of it. Brakes feel alright, they're just a little mushy, but they feel and do some brake bleeding. Oop. Stalled out, accidentally put it in third gear. Does not like first gear, that's interesting. Lights out though. So we'll restart and wonder what changed. Yeah, brakes are very squishy. We'll have to bleed those. And the engine light's back, so that's good to know. Alright. Taxi up ahead of me smoking a bunch of oil, so it does not smell super nice. Alrighty. Well, let's head back to the house. Yeah, first gear is just not. It's so weird. I wonder if it's a problem with like the shift linkage or what's up with that. I'm starting to think should have replaced some more of the suspension though, because shocks do not feel amazing on the front of this thing at all. Alright. I'm talking about with the alright. Neutral, clutch, no worries, we're at the e-brake on, so we're not gonna like go into my front thing over there. So clutch in, first, nothing. Second, first, no problem. So that's weird. I also don't know how to get in reverse, which third, fourth, fifth doesn't want to go in first. So that's interesting. Alright, we'll figure that out. Got some more looking into, looks like. See what our water temperature's at while I'm thinking about it. 143 water temp. That's good. getting some heat in it. See if anything acts funky as it heats up the rest of the way. I guess you should probably leave it on until it gets up to temperature if you've not done that yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and check you guys in a little bit, see if we got any more codes. 5 codes. So that's a, all right. So these codes, the 673 is for the glow plugs. Glow plug, glow plug. Probably a glow plug, but it's not reading. Where is my, it's interesting. All right, let's go ahead and turn this thing off for a minute. Not sure why they're not persisting through a restart. I'm wondering if there's something interesting, I don't know. All right, well, we got more stuff to figure out, I guess. All right, so I figured out reverse, except it's not. I think someone hooked the linkage up wrong. So, right, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We know this is first. And I'm gonna let off the clutch a little bit, press to go forward, all right? So push down, all the way over. Should be in reverse, that's what it says. And still wants to go forward. So that's not good. I'll have to try and figure out what in the heck. Oh. Everything I can see says that should be reverse. And here we are trying to go forward. So something's screwy. I'll have to figure that out. Oh, holy crap. Looks like our AC was actually a little bit low. I'm talking just a hair. And compressor clicked on after a little bit. Low speed fans came on at the same time. What do you know? Interesting. Let's see if it's actually getting cold. Nothing yet, but honestly, I'm gonna bet that that little line down there that hooks into the AC compressor is at fault. No kidding. Starting to cool the line down just a little bit. I think she's just out of juice. Let's get on the recharge kit. No good. Yeah, fans are on. They sound nice. Hell yeah. That's at least a small win. Good grief. All right, well, that's good to know. I think that's where we're gonna call it for now. Engine temp's only 161 and she's been running for a while, so I have a suspicion that either just runs cool or we have a probably, it might be a stuck open thermostat that's not letting it get all the way up to temp. But here we go. All right, so I started tearing around with this because I really can't leave stuff alone apparently. And let me show you what I found and what I think the problem is with the shifter. So in here, take off the center console as best as possible. I need to figure out how to actually remove the shift knob. But that's fine, that's not for now. Anyway, let's check it out. So under here, obviously there's a bunch of debris and stuff, so that's why it's probably so stiff. But do you see that? Let's see if I can get you a good angle. I don't know if you see that, that little bit right here. So going up and down, when you move the shifter side to side, it needs to pull that up and push it down. So down is first, going this way will put you fourth, fifth, and all the way over, well, fourth and third, all the way over put you in fifth. And then obviously forward and back is a different cable underneath. So what looks like it's happening is it's so worn, when you push it down to go all the way into reverse, it's not actually pushing that piece all the way down. It's hard to show with one hand, but basically it's not actually pushing that lever all the way down because how much play is in there. So right, that joint right there, with how much play is in it, looks like it's not letting it move appropriately. So gotta look up some new bushings and see what we can figure out. You can see it's kind of falling apart. And then honestly, some new shift kit bushings would probably do the trick. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they're called, but that's what I'm gonna call them. So that's something else to get ordered and what we're gonna go ahead and install in the next video. All right, so I think that's gonna go ahead and do it for this video. Figured out what's going on with the shifter, hopefully, and that'll be that. I think that it's just so worn out that when you're trying to put it all the way over into gear, it's not actually actuating the lever down far enough to go into reverse, and what we are really doing is just getting a very comfortable first gear. So that seems to be what is going on, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can order a new shifter kit. We gotta pick up another AC cartridge for a recharge, or might take Duplay's new professional recharge. We'll see what he wants to do there. Other than that though, it's really about it. So the long update video, just because I was waiting for parts, which is why it took so long to get this out. And then we got to order the new glow plug harness. And we'll look into the MAF sensor a little bit more, but I want to kind of knock one thing out at a time. I don't know why the airbag sensor went off. That is very interesting to me. I'll have to figure that out. I honestly don't know anything about that system as of this point, so I'll have to see what's going on with that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Take it easy, and I hope you guys are enjoying the bug content.